Hello, everybody. I am so honored to be joining you all today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the land on which I am joining you all today. I acknowledge that I live, work, and play on the ancestral and unceded territories of the Coquitlam First Nation, which lies within the shared territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Katzie, Musqueam, Squamish, and Stolo nations. I am a photographer, a 17-year-old student, a well-being advocate, and an environmentalist. I'm so excited to be talking to you all about my project today, but before I dive in, I think I should introduce myself a little bit. So I am a photographer. I am a portrait photographer and find joy in capturing people's stories. And I also see the power in using my art as a tool for change. So I'm constantly seeking out ways that I can tell stories that inspire and move people to make a difference. I'm also a well-being advocate. I involve well-being and mindfulness in my everyday life and a part of my activism. And because it has influenced my life so incredibly much, I am passionate about sharing it with others. So I'm the leader of my school's mindfulness group, and I lead weekly live meditations as well as some other mindfulness groups in my community. I am also an environmentalist. I believe so strongly in protecting the places that we love so much. So I get involved in as much as I can. I have worked with the organization Sustainability Teens. I'm the leader of my school's green team. And I really just work to do as much as I can to tread as lightly on this earth as possible. Because I've been involved with social good and activism from a young age, I have felt the empowerment that it gives me firsthand, and I want to share that with other youth. So I'm also a youth advocate. So by doing that, I have toured across Canada and mentored at conferences, and have also spoken at a TEDx talk all about the power of youth voice. So fast forward to the beginning of this year when the world as we knew it completely changed, and we were bombarded with headlines like panic buying, lockdown, coronavirus. I don't know about you, but these headlines really make me feel a certain way. And throughout lockdown and throughout quarantine, I have felt so many emotions. Everything from denial. This can't be happening. This won't affect me. This is far away. Or maybe you have felt lost, sad, fearful, scared, whatever you interpret this little being on the bed to be feeling, or maybe just outright anxiousness and fear for where this world is going. I myself have felt all of these emotions and different periods of this lockdown, and definitely in different levels. But on top of these emotions, I was also experiencing a creative block. As an artist, I'm used to being inspired and be thinking about new ideas on the daily, but I found myself in quarantine not inspired, not motivated, and not excited about creating. And ultimately, I also knew I probably couldn't create because I was a portrait photographer and I'm so used to being able to meet up in person with people and photograph them. So this completely changed. And so I was a bit stuck, but I thought I wouldn't be too hard on myself and pressure myself to be productive, to be creative. And so I acknowledged that these feelings existed within me. I let them be, and I hopped onto many of quarantine's bandwagons. Maybe you can relate with me. I started gardening. I got into the gardening phase for a little bit, started making bread. It was really delicious while it lasted, but it didn't last very long. I started getting onto yoga, which is now a beautiful part of my daily routine. And garlic was everything, trying my best to boost my immune system as much as possible. So that was a part of my daily routine, all of these things, hopping on these COVID bandwagons. But another part of my routine, I have to admit, was Instagram scrolling. Endless Instagram scrolling, may I add. But there was something that I realized when I was Instagram scrolling, the beauty of connection. I realized all of a sudden people were in their homes, but the virtual connection was abundant more than ever. You know, people started having virtual dinner nights, virtual exercise classes. Friends started FaceTiming each other more than ever to check in with each other. And I think this was a crucial part of our collective mental well-being. This really inspired me. So that was something that kind of sparked me. But another thing that really inspired me was the intimate and personal view that we had suddenly started getting of each other throughout this pandemic. People started seeing their coworkers' backgrounds, their kids running around in their background, the sounds and the noises, or maybe a personal artwork up on their wall that tells a story. This personal view of people's lives really inspired me. It made me realize that although we are all experiencing this pandemic in different ways, we are all living this shared reality. And as an artist, I also realized that just because we can't connect in person, it does not mean that there aren't stories to tell and pictures to be taken. So as an artist and as a photographer, I started getting inspired. I started thinking of images that I could take as a photographer. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to think differently about photography. I looked at photography in an unconventional way and decided that I wanted to use FaceTime and Zoom to capture people around the world in their homes over FaceTime. So of course, as you could imagine, I had never done this before in my photography career, so this was intimidating to me. So I decided I would have to give this medium a shot. So I called up a dear friend of mine and I asked her if she would like to be my first model for a FaceTime photo shoot, and she was so willing. And what's funny is she's actually steps away from me, but I had to have someone to try out this FaceTime photo shoot with, and we did it, and it was such a powerful experience to me because I realized that I was still using the techniques of photography, that I was still taking a portrait, and that I was still telling a story, even over FaceTime. Then Screenshots of Home was born, a photo project where I capture people around the world in their homes during quarantine over FaceTime or Zoom. My intention for this project was to create connection, share stories, and share our common humanity and build empathy. That was my project that I started, and so I just began contacting people around the world. I started writing to mutual contacts, to strangers over Instagram, and I started asking people around the world if they'd like to take part in my global photo project. If they said yes, we went ahead and started doing the photo shoots. It started building, and I started gaining more momentum, and I started photographing more people around the world. Now I'd love to show you some of the people that I photographed. This is Arlinda in New Jersey in the United States. I had not known Arlinda before the photo shoot, but as soon as we connected and we went on FaceTime, it was like I had known her before. We instantly connected over the creative process, over being creative in quarantine. She's a fashion designer and makes clothing. And so it was really an incredible experience getting to have a conversation and really connect with Arlinda. And we even had a mini dance party too. This is Freya in Portsmouth, United Kingdom. Freya has really shared that it's been art, it's been music, and it's been connecting with her friends that has been helping her get through this difficult time. As you can see here, she's painting a picture for Black Lives Matter. And it was really like I was transported into her backyard for this photo shoot. I could hear the birds chirping, I could see the clouds moving, and I could hear the sounds of the background. And that was something so special about this project is that I was really virtually traveling to places around the world for my comfort and from the safety of my bedroom. This is Kaylee in Valais, France. She is also a fashion designer and has her own brand called BCNU. And it was a beautiful experience getting to talk to her about, there has been challenges during this time, but it's really been a beautiful time to get creative, to get inspired, and to spend time with family. This is Henry in North Carolina, United States. He shared with me the challenges of homeschooling during quarantine. This is his two sons, and he shared that it has been really challenging to homeschool his two children, but he also shared that throughout this period, they have become a more tightly knit clan and crew together. And that was something so beautiful that he shared with me. This is Anna and her family in Tanzania. It was so incredible getting to FaceTime their family. It was such a creative household, and the kids were so amazing, and it was just wonderful getting to hear about how this time has been like for her. She shared that it has been challenging, but it's also been a time for her to spend more time with her family and show her kids that she works from home and what that experience has been like. This is Nadine in North Coast, Egypt. she shared with me the challenges of having her education stop. She was really looking forward to continue pursuing what she loves, but of course, because of university and post-secondary finishing and stopping during COVID, she shared those struggles and that frustration with me. This is Sasha in Ecuador. He is a circus artist. He shared the power that circus and movement has been for him during this time, and connecting and relying on other people to maintain mental health. So you might be wondering, well, Asalah, how do I actually capture these images? What does the creative process look like? Well, I would love to walk you through a bit about what it looks like. So we always begin by having a conversation. As I mentioned, most of my subjects were people I did not know before this project. So we always began by just talking with each other about this experience, talking about our challenges, the joys, and the experience of what quarantine has been like. And it's really the time where we get to know each other. And I found that most of the time when we had these conversations, I felt like I had already instantly gained a friendship with someone across the world from me. After our photo shoot, they would give me a little house tour with their phone. They would take me around all their spaces in their house, take me around their little nooks and corners that they've really been feeling comfort during this time in quarantine. And when they would take me through this virtual house tour, as an artist, it was my time to really seek out the photographic opportunities. I would look for the light. I would look for the beautiful places in their home that would really tell a story. And then we began the photo shoot. So on my end, I directed the whole photo shoot. I would direct the lighting, how they would frame the photograph, how they would put the phone. Sometimes we'd place the phone up on the windowsill or down on the floor up against books. And it was a really interesting creative process where I would actually take the photograph on my end. And what's really interesting is that in my practice of photography before this project, it was really my whole process when I would do the work. I had a model, but it was really all my hands on the camera, on the settings, on doing the composition. But in this project, it was really half and half. Yes, it was my direction, it was my vision, and it was my communication, but really, they had to be just as much involved in the creative process as I was. And what was something so beautiful about what I found with each shoot is that each subject that I would photograph would get just as much as excited as I was in creating these stories and creating these photographs. And then after our photo shoot, I would send them a couple of questions. I would ask them what this experience has been like, and they would send those back to me, and that would be a caption and a little bio to pair with their photograph to create this full picture and this full story of what their quarantine experience has really been like. And once I had that, I started sharing it on my main platform, which is on Instagram at Screenshots of Home. And people started seeing the account. People started connecting with the people I was photographing. And it became this really beautiful gallery of shared humanity, of empathy, of vulnerability, and of connection. So now I would love to show you a few others that I photographed. This is Ali in Tofino. She is a musician, an artist, and surfer. And something so beautiful that she shared was that, yes, this has been so challenging, but it has also been an opportunity to slow down, to notice the simple joys in life. And that was really beautiful. This is Mike in Cambodia. He actually is from BC, but moved to Cambodia just before the pandemic to teach. And of course, the pandemic hit, so suddenly what he was so excited about and so enthusiastic about ended. And he found himself in his little unknown home in this new place, this foreign place. And that really was difficult for him, that he wasn't able to still continue his teaching. This is Cynthia in Argentina. Our photo shoot was so special because we really found ourselves connecting over the challenges of this experience. What have we done to maintain our mental health? She has done reading. She said that reading was a big part of her quarantine experience, connecting with family and friends, checking in with each other. And this is Mia in Malaysia. I photographed her and her mom, and it was such an incredible experience to get to photograph them in their home and really hear about what this experience has been like. Her mom shared with me that it's been challenging not having the opportunity to leave the house, but she also shared that it's been a time where she's gotten to know her daughter a lot better. And that was so beautiful what she shared. I would love to share with you all of the stories of the people I photographed, but I would love to highlight 3 individuals and their stories that I know a lot of people resonated with or connected with in some way. So I hope that when you read these stories, you might connect with one of these people across the world in some way. So I'd like to begin by sharing you the story of Kaylee in Valais, France. As I mentioned before, she's an artist. She owns her own clothing brand, and I actually had not known Kaylee before our photo shoot. So her story is, so the biggest challenge for me in isolation has been dealing with the grief of my dad passing. I wanted to hold his hand and I couldn't, and that brings up a lot of emotion for me every day. But it's also put a lot of things in perspective for me too. It's highlighted all the incredible things in my life and reminded me to be grateful. I've had this mix of emotions, from deep grief to pure motivation and excitement for the direction my brand BCNU is taken. I've been spending a lot of time with my partner and my daughter and being super creative, and that just feels good. I've also enjoyed connecting more and more with lovely and cool people online like you, and building what feels like genuine friendships. It's been difficult, but like most difficult situations, I can feel some growth happening. I like that. The next person I would love to share with you is our Linda. She lives in New Jersey, United States, and I mentioned her earlier in the presentation, but our conversation and our photo shoot was so impactful for me. I was able to talk to her about creativity, about how she's really found beauty in this time. And we made such a strong connection at the end of our photo shoot. She even told me that she was going to name one of her next collections after me. So that just shows how powerful virtual connections can be. So she shares that. As the world around me became increasingly clouded and difficult to see, one thing remained clear. I had a room full of color-filled fabrics that were meant for my spring collections that would now have to immediately become protective coverings, face and body. I am happy that I was fortunate enough to be able to join the rest of the makers around the globe and use my talents to put my best face forward, even though it's half covered. All of my life as an independent entrepreneur, I've worked nearly 3 shifts per day, 7 days per week. Due to my town's set curfew, my biggest challenge was going home at an hour that was unfamiliar to me. The quiet was so loud that it was almost deafening, but music, my imagination, and thoughts of color kept me grounded. Through it all, one thing is for sure. Music, color, and imagination can never be quarantined. And the last person I'm going to share with you is Anna and her family in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Anna shares that I had the privilege of being able to be home during this quarantine, taking care of my family and working. My kids got the chance to see their mom working, which builds a full picture of who I am to them, even if they are still too young to fully understand the reasons why I sit in front of the computer at times instead of playing with them in the garden. I have the joy to work in a field that I am passionate for, developing solutions that combine social justice with environmental conservation, and to think and think and think about the unbalanced world. In fact, all of these photo shoots and this whole project has taught me so much. It has taught me growth as a person, but has also taught me growth as an artist. I've learned so many incredible things, but I'd love to share 2 of the main takeaways that have really stuck with me after doing this project. The first one is about interconnection. All it takes is the press of one button to engage in a creative and powerful connection with someone oceans away. This was something so beautiful that I learned, is that just because we are distant, it doesn't mean that we are disconnected, and that there are beautiful opportunities to engage in meaningful connections, to artistically collaborate, and share with others over our common humanity. You know, it's really easy to get caught up in our immediate circle around us and forget about the world around us. But this project really showed me that there are so many beautiful possibilities to connect with people around the world. My next main lesson that I took away from this project is that art truly has no boundaries. When I moved past the conventional idea of photography being a photographer, using my DSLR, to suddenly photographing on FaceTime. This was something foreign to me. This was something that I never would have imagined I would ever be doing. But quarantine and COVID pushed me out of my comfort zone. It forced me to look at photography and art in an unconventional way and see the ways in which I can still capture stories and still create art in unusual times. So that's something really special that I took from this, is that art is a tool of resilience, and that we have to move beyond what we know of and what we are used to in order to create powerful pieces of art that capture historical times in history. I'd like to thank you all so much for listening and hearing about the stories of people around the world. I really hope that you connected with someone that I shared today. And I invite you to take a look at my main platform of my project, which is at Screenshots of Home on Instagram, to learn more. And feel free to reach out to me there as well. Thank you so much. Very grateful.